Hey, Nicole.
Hi, Dominic.
How are you?
I'm doing well, thanks. I'm hanging in there given the current situation. How are you?
I'm good. And the current situation is exactly why you and I are talking today.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just so happy to be here chatting with you and all of your listeners, and I'm happy to help in any way I possibly can.
Yeah, thank you. You're an HR expert. And right now, the people that listen to this podcast are looking for information on how to take care of their people. I mean, obviously, we're talking about the COVID-19 crisis. It's almost over talked about, but it's a real situation. And I just called you straight up and said, Nicole, we need you. We need you on the show. So thanks for coming. I think I talked to you yesterday and you're already recording with me.
Yeah, my pleasure. I don't think there's such a thing as over communication in this case. I think everyone's struggling to consume the information and to keep up to date. And luckily, everyone's sharing knowledge and resources wherever possible. So that's really been awesome to see. But yeah, I'm Nicole Davidson. I'm the CEO and founder of Beacon HR. We help businesses thrive in challenging climates just like this with modern HR practices. And our phone has just been, let me tell you, ringing off the hook.
Yeah.
As you can imagine, we're getting so many questions around how do we talk to our team through this? How do we approach layoffs or terminations in a really human-centered, compassionate way?
Right.
How do we set ourselves up for successfully working remote? So where you can keep people working and they're working from home, how do you keep engagement high? And lots of talk about community and connection right now as well.
Yeah. I've been very impressed with the way people are reacting. It's everything starts and ends with how can I help? How can I help? Which is great.
Yes, totally. That's been really inspiring to see, and I'm so excited by how everyone's trying to really lift each other up and help and support.
Yeah. On the other side, business owners are walking on eggshells. Eggshells are a little bit too rough right now on whatever is more delicate than eggshells because there's so much uncertainty. And so the conversation about how do we deal with our people, which really also becomes, in all reality, a conversation about preserving cash flow so we can make it out of the other end of this. What are you
Exactly.
hearing? What do we do? What are some suggestions?
Yeah, it's that fine balance between how do we protect our business and protect our cash so that once we get through this and once everything rebounds, there's a business for everyone to come back to. And at the same time, how do we protect our people? And I really so believe that how we treat our people, our team members, and our customers right now is going to be talked about, and it's going to be remembered for not just months to come, but probably years to come.
Yeah.
So it's top of everyone's mind while at the same time trying to protect the business and preserve their cash.
So that's a great starting point. Where do we start with so much uncertainty? Where do I start? What do I say to my people at this point? And how do I say it? What are some suggestions that you're giving us?
Yeah, I think the first step is just to say it. I think the conversations need to be had in as open and honest and transparent a way as you possibly can.
Mm,
I think it's okay to show the human side of you and really lead with compassion and talk about where the company is at right now and how the COVID situation is affecting the finances and affecting maybe even you as a leader, talking about how it's not just about you and your family, but it's about all of us. We're all in this together.
yeah.
So really reinforcing that you care, reinforcing that you're trying your best and being transparent is really helping teams feel like they're in the loop. And if you can involve them in the problem solving process, then great, more power to you.
Yeah. Like any other group of people, large group of people, and these are business owners, everybody listening to this, some of us are better at talking and communicating, and some of us aren't. How you talked about communicating, how should we be doing that with our team right now? Is there just one way? Are there multiple ways? What's the best angle?
Yeah, so do it in a way that's authentic to you. We've, of course, got the added challenge that maybe you were communicating with people on job sites or in the office. You were communicating face to face, and that was a zone of comfort for you. And of course, now in many situations, we're not face to face. We're behind emails, we're behind text messages, WhatsApp messages, Facebook Messenger. We're communicating in such different ways, right? So that's presenting a challenge. We are recommending that companies get on board with video conferencing as fast as they possibly can, even if it feels uncomfortable, because that's really the next best thing to that in-person communication. We're reminding for the younger generation, sometimes we forget to pick up the phone. We think that a text message is easier, but you've got to be mindful that in a text or any kind of text-based communication, you're sometimes losing that body language or that tone. So it's really important to think about how you're communicating. Make sure you're doing it in a way that's authentic to you. We're hearing great stories about CEOs, business owners, and entrepreneurs. They're making sure that they're communicating with their team daily or even twice a day. They're sending an update at the end of the day, either a recorded video of themselves just to update the team, loop everyone in on what has changed in the last 24 hours, maybe sending an email at the end of the day, or changing your communication strategy in your daily toolbox meeting. So just over communicate, over communicate. There's no such thing as over communication or as too much communication right now.
Some of the things that I'm seeing, and I'd love to get your comments on this, because some of the things that I'm seeing or guiding the people that I work with is to preset the expectation. Like, tell people up front, look, we're going to talk about this Tuesdays at 2. Otherwise, it's normal business. So every Tuesday at 2, we're going to do an update. And I just say Tuesday at 2 because it rhymes. You could do Wednesdays at 1, whatever you like. Thursdays at 3. You see where that's going. But now the team knows, okay, that's the only time Dom's going to talk about it, Tuesday at 2. So I'd like to get your comment on that. And then the second thing is I'm guiding my clients, and this is what I do myself, is I say, and our reference, the only website we're going to be using for our decision-making information is X. And so some people are choosing CDC, the Centers for Disease Control. Others are choosing the World Health Organization. Others are choosing like a state or a federal, some level of government that is recognized and trustable. But choose one media source. It's not Instagram. Instagram's not a media source. It is a entertainment platform. Can't get the two confused. So those are the two big things. Communicate and tell people when we're going to communicate. And then say, we're going to communicate based on this website's recommendations or announcements. How is that as an approach?
Mm-hmm. I think that's a really interesting strategy to reducing the information overload. Because you're right, people are getting information not necessarily credible from Instagram, from LinkedIn, from Facebook.
There are certainly some funny memes. There are great.
Yeah. They're great. I know. And that's part of it too. We have to, as we're communicating to our teams, I think we have to give an opportunity to let off some steam around this, because if we're not laughing, we're crying. So, an example of that would be if you do have a text-based communication tool, setting up a specific channel for blowing off steam around this, sharing memes, having a laugh. I think that's really important too, is building into your communication cadence some opportunities to have a little bit of fun, to, for sure, share concerns, but also have some fun, check in on each other's mental health, whether that's just a quick one-word question, or one-word check-in rather. How's everyone doing today? But I love the idea of rethinking the cadence of your communication and the structure. So what was it? Tuesday at 2?
Yeah, that just rhymes. Tuesday.
Cool.
So just pick a day and a time.
That's
when it might be 5 minutes. And then when this whole thing blows over, we might need a half an hour. But until then, I don't know. We're going to talk Tuesdays at 2.
Exactly. I love that. We have our Monday 10:03 daily team huddle. We've got our Wednesday team sync up, and we just added a Friday 10:03 team huddle as well. And that's been just working fabulously for us.
Yeah. It's important to have those things. because people need to know, right now our leadership is front and center. The way we lead is front and center. And one of the things that I always try to remember is the kitchen table, which might sound odd, but the people that are working for me go home at the end of the night, or they're maybe working from home right now. Most of my listeners, well, all of my listeners are tradespeople. So some are in the office and some are in the field, and there's some who move between the office and the field. But either way, everybody goes home to their kitchen table and they're getting questions. I want my people to be able to have the conversation at the kitchen table over dinner that says, well, we'll know Tuesday at 2. That's when the boss, that's when Dom is having the conversation. And so their spouse or their family can go, okay, we're going to wait Tuesday till 2, and they're going to check the World Health Organization website, or they're going to check the CDC, whichever website you choose in your company. I like that certainty because I can always point back to it. And I know that when this gets to the home, they know what's going. It's very simple. Doesn't have to be complicated. Simple and calm.
Yeah, I'm really liking those shared living, breathing documents that are coming out that have all the resources in one place.
Right.
So as you say, instead of having to scour a million different websites, you've got it all in one particular place. And they seem to be popping up for every single industry, for every single need. I saw one the other day that was companies that are still hiring across Canada. So if you're a job seeker who's recently been affected, there's a list of companies that are still hiring. You can have a read through, see if there might be something there that's a fit. But there's a lot of that sort of open sourced knowledge sharing going on.
Yeah. Let's go to the actual dollars, the balance sheet, the income statement of, I've got a staff of 10, let's just say 10, and I'm in the construction trades, some way, shape, or form. I'm a contractor, general contractor, builder, renovator, remodeler, whatever I am. What are some strategies that you would suggest as I'm looking at keeping my costs in line and really being fair to my people? Because if we don't have business coming in, I can't keep everybody working. Absolutely.
And I think fundamentally they understand that, but you still need to have that conversation and bring that to light. I think it's a really good time in your Tuesday at 2 to talk about exactly how this is affecting the business's finances and how are we doing? Are we a red, yellow, or a green as of right now? What does the forecast look like? I just read that as of today, we're at the end of March, they're looking at completely shutting down non-essential infrastructure construction projects. So that's going to affect a lot of people if they're not able to do that residential renovation. If that's legislated or that's part of the law that they can't do that, then unfortunately, on top of the supply chain already being affected, people are not going to be able to work. So I think it's important for the owners and leadership to have those conversations so that everyone is looped in, so that if you do have to have those conversations, and we can talk about some options for workforce reduction, but if you do have to have those conversations, they're not coming out of left field.
Yeah. So, and let me just point out, everybody lives somewhere. Nicole, you may have read local news that says construction's not essential.
Yes.
And then in other areas, construction has been deemed an essential service. But, and even then, I'm doing this from phone calls today. One of the people that I was speaking to in my one-on-one meetings is strictly a commercial contractor. So I don't know what the situation is everywhere. So everybody listening, thank you for listening, but check your own local media, just like we were talking about, and make sure that it's a trusted source who will give you the answer. Now, Nicole, you just talked about what was the word you used? I say wage rollbacks or layoffs, and you had a nice word for it.
Workforce reduction.
Workforce reduction.
Yeah.
Let's put that big, hairy, ugly beast on the table. What do we do if we're facing workforce? For those of you listening in audio, this is being recorded in video for YouTube, and I'm doing the Nixon air quotes.
Or air quotes.
The air quotes. Workforce reduction. What is that, and how do we do it, and how do we do it properly?
Yeah, and you know, it's so the only reason I'm smiling is because I think there's a human approach to layoffs. For example, there's a human-centered approach that you can take, and you can do it in as kind and respectful as a way so that your departing employees can leave with their head held high.
Right.
So again, you need to look at your local, whether it's your Employment Standards Act or your Fair Employment Standards Act, wherever you live in the world, check your local resources. But the most common approaches to workforce reduction that we're seeing right now is temporary layoffs. And temporary layoffs allows you to send your awesome team members on their way on a temporary basis up to 13 weeks. As the employer, you can defer that severance payment that you would otherwise have to pay them if it's a permanent layoff or termination. And they get to go on employment. They get to apply for employment insurance right away, which here in British Columbia, again, check what's local to you, but here in British Columbia, they've waived the 1 week waiting period.
Right.
So temporary layoffs is one option. You want to understand what kind of work share programs there are, or maybe it's just a conversation of talking to your team members and getting their buy-in and asking them to temporarily reduce. Maybe they're a salaried employee. Can they go down to hourly? Maybe they're full-time. Can they reduce to part-time? So it's really important to talk to them about it and get their buy-in wherever you can.
Yeah. I would, maybe I'll tell you what's rolling through my mind right now is what's the search term I should use if I'm in Tennessee versus if I'm in Saskatchewan, which is, for those of you who don't know, which is a province in Canada, and Tennessee, of course, is a state in the United States. What would a search term be so that I could find my most updated legislator rulings on?
Yeah. So labor, I would do labor regulations or labor laws plus your state or province that you're in. Throw in COVID-19 or changes to your labor laws, and that should pull up a number of options for you.
You were talking earlier about central resources that are coming up for people to find reputable information. Again, not Instagram. This is where politicians are actually shining, because I'm seeing local politicians put together trusted resources from federal, state, provincial bodies. And so for anybody listening, go to that. We don't often do that. We don't go check and see what our local politician is doing, because I'm even rolling my eyes, but it seems like we finally figured out what they're good for. And if they are putting out, quality information as a central trusted resource, they have to fact check, because they're going to be held to task later if there's a mistake. I like that. I like the fact that there's rigor. I like the fact that there's accountability. I like the fact that they're putting forward serious information with no attempt at trying to, dress it up. It's just got to be factual. So for those of you listening, just go and check your local resource and find one place that you will check as your decision-making go-to.
I love that. And I love the idea of keeping focus. That's been sort of a mantra for me through all this information overload, is just keep it focused. And keep calm and be human and carry on. Yeah.
Hey, I've been through situations like this before. I've been through up markets and down markets. I've seen it not only where I live, but across the world because of the work that I've done. And one of the things that often comes back afterwards is documentation. We went and we got stuff done, but we didn't really document it well. And I worry that some of the listeners here might be thinking that as well. It's a busy time. It's crazy. I don't need to document it. We'll just remember that we did this or made X, Y, or Z decision. What would your suggestions be on documentation for us as business owners through this?
Yeah, you still need to make sure that your T's are crossed and your I's are dotted. So with the example of a temporary layoff, it's important to still make sure that you have your termination letter, and we have a template. I'm happy to share that with you, Dom, and your listeners.
Wow, thank you. I'm sure people would love that. Thank you.
Yeah, no, more than happy to share, but it is really important that you're following the regular documentation and that you have it in writing. And I always think about, at the end of the day, people are always going to try to protect themselves over your company. They're
Yeah.
protecting their best interests over those of your company. So
Right.
if the conversation is bright and cheery and sounds solution focused right now, that's great. But the tune might change in 13 weeks or 14 weeks or 15 weeks when you have to make a decision to bring that person back on or pay out the severance and terminate them.
Yeah. And again, speculation. I hope you meant 13 days, not 13 weeks, but we'll have.
Oh, wouldn't that be amazing? Yeah. I hope
Yeah.
this is days, not weeks. Yeah.
Well, that's why we need these solutions. Thank you, by the way. That letter can be obviously customized any way that people need. It's important to
Absolutely.
communicate and document because we often get caught flat-footed on documentation, and it's important to have as much as we can laid out.
Hmm. Yeah,
What
absolutely.
when we're looking at the labor market change, I mean, this happened overnight. If I had interviewed you 2 weeks ago, Nicole,
Hmm.
the question
Be
would have
so
been,
different.
yeah, what would the question have been? How do we find people? It's an impossible labor market.
Right, right.
And now what I'm hearing from the business owners that I work with, and this is one-on-one, right? I work with people just like this. They're saying, what if we lay people off and we lose them?
Hmm.
My first thought is, they're not going to, where are they going to go? And I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean, I want them to come back. So I can't be worried if I lay them off so the company stays available to employ them later. They're going to need to find employment and they know me and like me and they're going to come back. Am I wrong on that?
I mean, there's so much uncertainty right now that it's so hard to plan. I'm still thinking about the cost to attract and hire and retain great people. And when you think about 2 weeks ago or 4 weeks ago when the market was completely different, I mean, in the last week alone, 1 million people applied for employment insurance in Canada. So when we talk about the marketplace shifting and the talent market shifting, it's going to be really, really dramatic.
Right.
So I think about the cost of attracting and hiring great people, and I think that will go down once we rebound from all of this. But I really think it's important for those great people that you'd like to bring back to keep them in recruitment. We talk about keeping candidates warm,
Mm.
or in a sales funnel, keep them warm. So check in if you do have to let them go for a little while, check in. I sent some of my team members some care packages from a food-based company that's having to pivot, and they're now doing food boxes from a local market. So
Yeah.
I'm sending some things to their homes. So thinking about how you can keep them still engaged and really still feeling a sense of loyalty to your company through all of this, I think is going to really help you once everything bounces back.
Yeah. I, I couldn't agree more. And I hope I had, maybe I didn't explain in my approach to this, is that call Tuesdays at 2 or Thursdays at 3, whatever it might be. I want even the laid off people to know they're invited to that call.
I love that.
I mean,
Yeah.
you're part of the team. We just need to take a break for a bit. Like I don't know. This is something else. I think now more than ever, as a leader, it's okay to say, I don't know, because I don't know.
Yes.
I don't have, I'm going to keep it polite so that we don't get a explicit rating on this podcast, but I don't have a frog's clue what's going to happen. I just don't know.
Yeah.
But I think now more than ever, it's okay to say that to our team. And so I'm going to urge people, if you're going to go to a regularly set, pre-scheduled meeting, invite everybody. Whether you think you're going to bring them back or not, let them know they're still part of your team, because at the end of the day, they're going to have that conversation at the kitchen table that says, you know what? I ended up leaving Dominic's company, but he's a good guy. That was a great place to work. Maybe they'll come back one day.
Yes.
Or they'll say, he kept us updated the whole time. Professional place. I like working for that company. They took care of us. I'm going back.
Exactly. Or he did his very best that he possibly could, given the situation and given the information he had at the time. I love for that Tuesday at 2 meeting as well. Let's talk about the positive. Let's celebrate wins, because there is innovation happening through all of this. There are companies who are pivoting slightly, depending on the industry. Of course, we're seeing a lot of companies taking their business online.
Yeah.
So celebrating the good things, the ideas, the wins, and trying to stay focused on the positive is there's no money value you can put on that, and it doesn't take a lot to spend 5 minutes going around the table and asking everyone to talk about one win or one positive from the week.
Yeah. I like the way you just brought that up. I mean, people are looking for new ways of doing things. I wonder how businesses felt when the car was introduced and your entire company was based around horse and buggy. Right? Total reinvention time. And then for those people who produced carburetors for vehicles and then fuel injection came, had to change. So change is a constant in business, no matter what we think might be the same. So how are you looking at your future, and what are you doing to recession proof or bulletproof your business against something like this if it happens again? Right? The entrepreneurs right now are certainly worried about today, and they're worried about next week and next month. But the true entrepreneurs that I work with, they're still talking on the 10-year time horizon. What does this mean for our company in 2030?
Absolutely. And aren't we as entrepreneurs just really great problem solvers? And we're tenacious and we're gritty. And if you give us a problem to solve, we're like a dog with a bone. So we've got within us and within this great community who's suddenly rising to support everyone. I think we've got some of the tools we need to move through this together and come through it successfully.
Great. Well, do you have any parting thoughts for us here? Anything that you think we haven't covered off that you just so badly want business owners to know about helping their teams through this?
I would ask that teams who haven't had remote workplaces before, and that totally, if that freaks you out, you think nothing can be done remotely, you have to be in the office, I'd ask you to keep an open mind and jump into that. And if you can keep just 1 or 2 more people working because they're set up to work from home, try it. There's so many great resources out there to help you get set up to work remotely. Other than that, I think I just want to let everyone know that I'm here to help. We're offering complimentary HR consultation calls. We're happy to troubleshoot or answer any questions that you might have. We're just here to help.
I know you've been helping lots of people I know here. Can. Yeah, you've been helping lots of people that here in town that I know, and that's why I called you. If people want to get in touch with you, can you tell us how to do that?
Yeah, so we're based here in Vancouver. We're at beacon-hr.com. You can shoot me an email, find us on social. I'm always on LinkedIn, on Instagram, but please do connect. We would love to share insights and knowledge and resources.
Yeah, I think if people have HR questions, that's a great way to shoot them out to you there. For those of you who are more comfortable posing that question to me, we'll loop Nicole in. So you can certainly ask questions on the Facebook group, which is Find and Fix Your Profit Leaks. That's the Facebook group for this podcast. And then through the other website as well, Cabinet Maker Profit System, which is another podcast I host. Anything we can do to help. I know both Nicole and I are here to help in this really awkward, weird, new ground situation. So now's not the time to stay sheltered in your mind. Now's the time to reach out to experts like Nicole, like me, and find out what's going on and just look at your options. That's all you can do. Yeah. Nicole, thank you so much for joining us here today. This has been fantastic. And I want to point out again, I talked to you yesterday and we're already doing the interview. So thank you for opening up your schedule.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
All right. Have a great day. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks. Bye. Bye-bye.